I thought that kind of come with it or
How much
something.
cutting today?
We'll call to order tonight's meeting of the Portland City Council. This is a special call meeting. Roll call, Ms. King.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Callum.
Here.
Alderman Coker.
Here.
Alderman Harvey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Metcalf.
Here.
Alderman Minnis.
Here.
Alderman White.
I think he's on the way in, so.
I heard the door.
This is a special call meeting tonight to we'll, talk about the first reading of the ordinance. We've been talking, one of the main parts of this budget has been paving. And Doug and me have met with Toby Ellis with CRS, who is a paving specialist. And we thought it would be good, and it is part of the budget, to let him talk about some new technology that is out there on road repairs, pavement management, how we can actually make our dollars go further, since this is a big part of our budget. And I thought it would be good for us to spend a little time on that, because I think it'd be very informative, very educational, and would actually help us in the long run. And I know, like I say, that's a big part of our discussion tonight is going to be is how to accumulate money for paving. So there is a new technology of, I think I mentioned, of infrared, and he's got someone here to talk about that and actually demonstrate it. It's been very, very successful for maintaining your streets. And then we have spent some time since the last meeting, and Doug, and we'll get into this a little bit more in budget, but there is a sheet like this in front of it. It's got all of our streets. Now, we could have missed a street, you know, but it should be fairly close. Of the actual mileage is a little bit less than what we had actually been working with. And then if you did a complete repave in some years, but Toby's going to talk about a lot of that, not necessarily certain streets. We've not authorized them to go out and do, but an overall plan. And I think it's really will help us in making some decisions to go forward. So if it is okay with everybody, we'll let Toby just go ahead and go first.
Hello, how are y'all doing? Been talking to the mayor and Doug over this morning and a couple days ago, and they were telling me basically the concerns of the budget with the paving aspects that we have. Just not what Portland is struggling with. It's what every city that I deal with is struggling with. If you look at my experience level that I've passed out, I won't go over all that, but I have dealt with every city pretty much here within 40-mile radius of Portland. The struggles that we've had in the past is cities making decisions to go and pave streets that are they're high traffic areas, and they've got some potholes on the roads, and they're getting a lot of complaints. And so in the past, you know, in talking with the engineers or the mayors or whoever in the city that is operating and leading the project, the problem that they have always seen is going out and paving a road just because of the complaints when you've got a road that is in a lot worse shape, but there's not as many people that's driving on that road. And they're actually ignoring it and going out and just taking care of the hot fire. So some of the things that have happened in the last 2-3 years that I've been really excited about is the infrared heating. It has really been a great tool that we have used on several projects. Last year on the Metro projects, I used it 2 or 3 times. We had mishaps, and we had issues where they could come in, reheat the asphalt up to its natural state, fix the problem area, and it's seamless. There's nowhere that water can get in it. It looks just like it did the day it was paved. It's something that I'm really excited about, and I'm going to turn this over to Benny Shepard with JBI. He's going to show you a short demo of how the infrared works, and then I'll be coming to talk to you about some other strategies that I have tonight to save the tax dollars, the budget, the money for y'all's budget. So, hold on. Benny.
Hello, I'm Benny Shepard. I represent JBI Infrared. We're an infrared contractor here locally. First thing, I was happy to see this short podium because normally I can't see over them, so that was a good thing. I'm a little bit of my resume, though it's not as extensive as Toby's. I've worked for Rogers Group for 10 years in the crushed stone and asphalt, and coincidentally, similar to what he said, being out, parties both private and public, the one thing that both of us keep hearing is, you know, we got to do more with less. We got to make our roads go farther. So where he, you know, went down one path to do the same thing as I did, you know, being in the asphalt business, you know, led us down both those roads. But I had a couple of videos. One's a demonstration of the infrared asphalt repair process, and then there's you guys might have seen it, a local News Channel 4 story. Metro Davidson County's been doing this for several years, and it's just kind of a, you know, a third-party representative from Metro, you know, talking about the infrared repair and how it's helping them. So I'll play these real quick for you guys.
I probably should have.
Restoration process
Can you guys hear that?
aims to permanently repair virtually any asphalt defect. Thanks to the infrared restoration process, almost any damaged asphalt surface can be returned to like-new condition in a fraction of the time and more permanently than with a conventional remove and replace repair. Infrared restoration truly creates the ultimate asphalt repair. Some of the many applications include potholes, utility cuts and trenches, bird baths, high spots, pavement seams, alligator cracking, failed repairs, handicap ramps, and manhole covers. In fact, virtually any defect not caused by problems with the subbase can be repaired more permanently with the infrared restoration process. We will show you how a pothole on a busy road can go from this to this, or how a failed utility cut can go from this to this, or a sunken trench can go from this to this. We will now show you the infrared restoration process. The day begins at the asphalt plant where fresh asphalt is loaded into the unit and the crew proceeds directly to the first job site. This is a typical failed utility cut. The first step is to ensure that the area is swept clean. Next, the repair is marked out to ensure that we send at least 6 inches beyond the damage. The infrared heater is then turned on and lowered over the area to be repaired. We will wait approximately 8 minutes to allow the infrared to soften the asphalt to a depth of 2 to 3 inches without damaging the surface. While the infrared is working, the crew will unload the roller and other tools. The roller seen here is a single drum vibratory roller. It produces a total applied force of 2,405 pounds per square inch, which is an ideal amount of compaction for the infrared application. After the 8 minutes are up, the asphalt is checked and the infrared heater is removed. The pavement is then scarified using a steel asphalt rig, taking care to remove any existing seam or joint. You can see how easily the raker scarifies the asphalt 2 inches deep. The rejuvenator is sprayed over the existing asphalt to reintroduce light oils, which may have oxidized out over time. Fresh asphalt is discharged from the reclaimer. The plant mix is then added to the repair. The patch is raked smooth and level. As soon as the raker is finished, the patch is ready to be rolled. It is important to roll the edges of the patch first. This fuses the fresh asphalt to the heated but untouched surrounding surface and is a key to a seamless repair. Thanks to the fact that only 2 to 3 inches of the existing pavement has been disturbed, further compaction of the asphalt after rolling will be negligible. Except for the difference in color, it is almost impossible to see where the repair ends and the existing surface begins. The entire process took less than 25 minutes, start to finish. The infrared process works equally well on larger areas, such as this sunken and eroding trench. The only difference in the process is that while one area is being raked, the adjoining area is being heated. This continues takes three things to make infrared restoration work. One, the process. Infrared heat is only part of the process. It is critical that all necessary steps are carefully completed to ensure the permanent success of the restoration. Two, the personnel. Our operators have completed a comprehensive factory-sponsored training program. Three, the equipment. We use Cassidy infrared equipment. It is the finest infrared equipment available. The repairs made with the infrared restoration process are the most permanent repairs possible. The equipment is designed to cause the least possible disruption to traffic. Whether repairing small patches in a fast food parking lot or repairing large areas on busy streets, infrared restoration is the answer. The finished product is a permanent, seamless repair. The benefits of infrared restoration are time. Repairs are made in a fraction of the time of conventional remove and replace repairs. A typical 5x7 foot repair takes 20 minutes to complete. The road can be reopened to traffic immediately. Quality. The thermal bonding of the patch to the surrounding surface makes the repair an integral part of the pavement. No cold seam exists for water to infiltrate and cause joint failure. This also eliminates the need for tack coating the edges. Environment. Existing asphalt is reused, leaving little or no waste material. This also means less handling and disposal costs. Labor. The typical infrared crew is made up of only 2 or 3 workers. And cost. Infrared restorations are installed at prices competitive with those of less permanent, conventional repairs.
If you guys have time, I got another quick story, just a testimonial from Metro Davidson County. They're doing this quite a bit, and I know they keep adding more money to their infrared budget every year. So give me 1 second.
The number one source of distracted driving is the use of a smartphone. Make a commitment
You might
to be
want
a
to
safe
pan
driver.
over because that's
Stop
commercial. It
texting
can't go
behind
out
the
over.
wheel.
Make a pledge today to be a safe
Oh,
driver.
That's a plan.
Parker and Lover,
commercial on
justice is your
public.
right and we
Yeah.
demand it.
Well, are you had to dodge 1 or 2 potholes while out about this weekend? And Metro crews are waging.
We'll catch up in a second. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
A constant battle against them on our city streets. But now, there's a new piece of technology letting workers in problem spots a permanent fix. When it comes to fixing potholes, the hotter, the better.
It's a permanent solution versus a classic temporary solution.
You're looking at the newest weapon in Nashville's arsenal to fight potholes. The traditional way of patching potholes is to dump asphalt into a bad spot of road. But this equipment uses an infrared heater to get things started.
Because the old asphalt and new asphalt are both hot, it bonds together very nicely and prevents water from seeping under it.
Crews scrape away at
It's a little slow to load.
into the old asphalt once it's heated. Smooth new pavement is put down in its place. And then a special chemical helps tie the layers together. The repair should hold much longer than the old method, which typically cracks as soon as temperatures fall below freezing.
This patch will last until we come back and pave these streets. So we shouldn't have to come back anymore to this batch.
I'll just leave it at that. So, that's a little bit about what we do. I appreciate you guys having me out, giving me the opportunity to show you a little online demo. I'll turn it back over to Toby.
I think you're also available for a demonstration.
Sure.
Why don't you also be available to do a demonstration?
Absolutely. I would love to come up here and do a live one for you guys.
That would be key. It's hard to show on video what the actual process can entail. I mean, when you see it live and see it up front, it is just, it's amazing what it can do. I mean, the discoloration showed up. It is jointless, which in asphalt, that is so important because you want to make sure that you keep the water out of the potholes. That's what distressed it in the first place. The infrared heating is just one of the technologies that have come out. The crack ceiling has been around for years, but when in talking with Doug and the mayor, we were talking about ways that we can stretch the dollars. And I told them some of the things that has been done in several of the other surrounding cities is they've come out with a city street assessment program. I've went out before on different occasions and put grades on the city streets and went and looked at them to tell the cities how much life is left in them. That's the part that will take a little time, but I would be very excited about doing that because I feel like I told Doug a while ago, it's almost like an Easter egg hunt. You know, you're finding them roads that have still got life left in them, and they're in the process of got a few problem areas, and getting the maintenance and getting them what they deserve and getting them fixed before it becomes a $60,000 repair. It may be a $3,000 repair. So that's what, in our conversations with them, I said, I don't know what y'all's paving budget is, but you can sit there and add dollars to your budget by saving it on the front end instead of waiting till it's too late. We were with, Benny was doing a demonstration with Metro, and Benny, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Metro started out a few years ago with a $25,000 budget, and they're well over $1 million now. 1.5. And so they see how important it is to get these roads done, and what it's done for them is getting the roads and the potholes fixed to where that road, when they leave it, just like Mark Macy says, that road, the problem areas have been fixed, and it's probably got another 5 or 6 years left of life. And every year that you add to that city street is dollars saved and stretching taxpayers' money. So I know that's what we're here about tonight, and I know that's what's important for y'all. After doing an assessment, I would have a pavement management system set up that would, in conversations with you, provide a short-term and long-term plan to get these roads kind of under control, and it'll become a living organism. It'll be something that rolls over year after year, and the file just keeps upgraded as y'all do the work and take care of your road system. It's important, you know where you're at. 5 years ago, you've got notes, you've got the understanding of what was fixed on the maintenance program, what was paved, and just having the understanding of, you've got roads around here that have probably been overlaid 3 or 4 times, and then the discussion comes up with the liability of having such a high edge into the ditch line, things of that nature. That's the kind of stuff that I can help with. There are some other technologies out here that I won't get in tonight as in detail as I was on the infrared, but there's some slurry coats. I know TDOT we've used some thin lifts and some things of that nature. TDOT does about a 10% budget for trying new things in rural areas to try to see if it'll work. And with Tennessee weather and the winter weather we have, the freeze and thaw effect, to see if it'll handle the average daily traffic. But to get back to the assessment of your city streets, that is something that is very important. It will keep you informed and just like when people roll over, you've got people that are working here that leave and go on. The new people coming in, they have an understanding of where you're at, where you need to be, and where you're going. Mayor, was there anything else that you were wanting me to cover?
No, I think
Okay.
this is an area we've not gone before. I think through these talks, we realized this is an area we need to get into, is really get serious about assessing our streets
Well,
and so forth.
A few of the things that I can help with is that we live in a good area, that we have some very good, capable paving companies in the Middle Tennessee area. Some of the project management services I could give to the city and help the city with is making sure that, you know, every mixed design, it's a recipe for your asphalts, basically, is your mixed design. And doing testing, coming in when the paving crews are there and doing the density controls on your city streets, making sure it's getting proper compaction rate, and coring the roads and making sure you're getting the depths that you deserve and what your specs show. Testing and looking into the densities, just make sure that you're getting exactly what was sent out, you know, what you were wanting, making sure the liquid AC is right, making sure the gradations in the stone's right. And like I said, the companies that you have in this area are very good, very thorough, but things do happen along the way, and it's way better to catch it on the front end. Sometimes you can catch a problem early enough that you can tweak it and make an adjustment and go on, and you still got a very good product. But without doing the testing, you won't know that. You know, you don't want to be looking at a road 6-7 years from now and going, what's going on with that road? You know, is there a problem there? It's not lasting as long. And the normal cycle life for a paved road is usually about 10 to 12 years. I've got some roads out there probably 15 years old that are still in pretty good shape, but they're getting toward the end of their life. So that's where we want the city streets to be. We want that 12, 13-year range. In our meetings the other night, I was talking about compaction is making sure that you get that 90 to 92% compaction and getting all the voids out of the asphalt. The tighter you get that asphalt, the more traffic and more beating it can withstand. If you've got air voids in a mix and it does not have the proper compaction, it starts to have movement. It starts to move on you, and then it creates a crack, and then weather, and the whole process takes place. But things about your oil distributor, making sure, testing on that, making sure that you're getting the proper spray. You want full wet spraying on your oil distributor, on your tack oil, to make sure that it's got that proper adhesive and the glue and bonds it together. It's just the steps are very important. This is a process. It's got so many variables, the temperatures, the compaction, and just making sure that you get your biggest bang for the buck. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Explain to them, and I didn't know this till today, when you was talking about the oil, why the oil price and asphalt's gonna stay up there even because of the technology, I think.
Well, the liquid AC used to be a byproduct. Now, just work with me a little bit. Picture a barrel. Used to, 6-7 years ago, the barrels had a byproduct in the bottom of it that was probably 5 to 6% that was left over in that barrel, and they used the rest of it, and the sludge in the bottom they didn't. Well, the part that was left is what they used for the liquid AC, the ergons, the people that make the AC or the glue in the asphalt. And they had the prices down low because they wanted to get rid of it. They didn't have any other use for it. Well, over the refining, with the new technologies and the refining processes that they have now, is that they use the whole barrel. They can use every bit of it, and they don't see any reason to give the liquid AC boys a break when they can charge them the same amount as the kerosene and diesel fuel people. And so that has elevated the price of the liquid AC. And so when the oil prices went through the roof, the refining started, and then when the oil prices come down, they kept the prices of the liquid AC up, and that generated higher prices on your asphalt. And I mean, there's not very many variables to asphalt. You got sand, limestone, and the heating and heating cost of the asphalt plant, but the liquid AC is the major cost that you have. And remember when it jumped from $180 a liquid ton to $360 overnight. And I've been doing business with, Goodlettsville, Metro, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Forest Hills, just to name a few, White House. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, my municipality money is going away. I love paving city streets. And it was a big adjustment for cities to catch up on, because they lost half their budget overnight because their tax dollars was not going to cover their budget anymore because it had doubled. So the theory of saving your tax dollars and hoping for a later date where the liquid AC will go down is not going to happen. The costs are going to stay up, and it's something that we fight with on a daily basis. So, does that answer your question?
Do you know what the percentage difference is in the current way that we fix potholes in the infrared?
As far as the money,
Mm-hmm.
well, I could probably figure it out, but I mean, if you do the math and say, a typical 5x5 pothole is going to take, 3 to 4 guys, a dump truck, a backhoe, a saw. You're going to have to saw cut the area, excavate the material, haul it off, bring in fresh asphalt. I could get back with you on a firm number on that, but when you incorporate all of the fuel and the man hours and the money and the time compared to a 20-minute repair, it's not really apples to apples.
Brian, I can give you a little feedback on that. I was a construction manager for 8 years for Rogers Group, where he can come out in his truck with a 3-man crew and sit down the heater. And I would have to mobilize equipment in on a lowboy with a base crew, probably a small 3-4-man crew, and then make sure my paving crew is in the general area. And so what happens is that they come in to prepare the patch. Now I'll have to bring in probably another crew to patch the patch. And so for what you would pay a big company just to mobilize in, he'll have it done and within 20-30 minutes and be gone. And then, like I said, it's seamless. I can't wait for y'all to see it. It's something that I told the mayor to at least get. I said, wear them out. Get 2-3 good places that you are really problem areas. I said, he'll do them for free.
I will say this. I'm not trying to get out of that whatsoever, by the way, but when I pulled in, there's a big patch that's sunken over here on this side road as you're going to the back parking lot of the building. So that would be a great spot to do. And you can see that thing's fallen in, and there's a big seam on it, and one of two things happens in that situation. Either your patch fails because of the water intrusion, or the road around it does. So, and that one's already down, so if you want to fix that one and whatever else, then we will.
Since you got this new technology, we're trying to understand it better, and there's 7 council members. We probably each have a project that's near and dear to our heart. And just, because I know you're a kind-hearted individual, and that if we could get out there and see that technology on maybe 7 projects, I think that'd just be a wonderful place to start.
Yeah. Mine's called Oak Hill Drive.
Oak Hill Drive.
Just that road.
Just that road.
Big patch.
Well,
Big one.
the simple math of it is basically, you take a normal size city street in Portland. I would say the average is probably anywhere from 800 to 1,500 foot in length, and then you've got a few of them that are 2 or 3 times that length. But let's just say the $60,000 is just an average number for an average city street. If we can go in and catch it to where you're taking care of a few problem areas and you're $3/4 grand, and that road still has 5 or 6 years left in it, it's just, you're taking your budget and stretching it probably 30-40% overnight. So all of a sudden, the problems that I've got into with other cities is they're going, hey, I've got this road, it's wearing me out. People are calling me every day, and then I've got this other one that's falling apart but not getting as many calls. Well, you're maintaining and fixing this with infrared or whatever you're doing over here, saving that money and really going fixing the problem areas that the process is due, it needs to be paved. So,
Right now, we're fixing to pave 3 streets, hopefully maybe this week, but part of the problem on those streets, not only the potholes that are occurring, but also, it's just like we're getting back down to the gravel, which I know part is wear and tear. Is that part of being sure the compaction is all right, to get more life out of? Because these streets are almost like you're driving on gravel beside the pothole. What is the secret to that, or is there?
you're saying some of them have raveled?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like your top coat of oil is off there, and you're driving on the stone only.
Like exposed aggregate.
Exposed aggregate. Keeping on top of your densities with your rolling pattern can really create a lot of longevity in your pavements and your asphalts. I mean, we were talking about old Westmoreland Road over here. I know that's one of the roads that y'all are going to pave. And the distressed areas that you have that are irregular shape places that it's failed, you know, there's no asphalt there. And just in general, I was sitting there talking to him. I said, well, you've got an 1.5 inch lift on this. I said, go over it with 25, 35 pounds of that. Skim it out, get that compaction, get your oil, you get your tack sprayed down, and get it glued down good, and then get that 25 pounds and fill in these voids. And then come back with your 1.25 inches and overlay it, and then you've got compaction on compaction, where, you know, in days past, they might have just, you know, sprayed the tack down and overlaid the 1.5 inches and good to go. Well, you think about it, you've got that lift up under it that's not getting that full compaction. You've got a wide roller that's bridging a smaller area, and it's just not getting the compaction it deserves, and the leveling really helps that.
There used to be a gentleman here at Lloyd Freeland. He told me that a pothole could not be filled properly with a paving machine. He said, you're not gonna get the compaction in that pothole, and it's gonna come back. Is that?
Well, a pothole where you've got, you know, and they're always round, the way we have always had to do them when we go and do undercuts is we would have to dig them out, square them up, and fill them in. If you do with that process, if you've got something that's, you know, quarter of an inch, you can drag it and it'll be okay. But just a dip down pothole, it always needs to be squared off and compacted and filled back in. And the Metro spec on that is 8 to 9 inches. And in Gallatin, they even go another step further with flowable fill and then go back with the mix, and that takes care of it. And that's another thing that Benny is getting into is the utility cuts. I don't know how many streets I've paved over the years, and the utility department has put a cut right in it 2 days after I paved it. But that with the infrared, that's pretty much takes care of that too. Any other questions?
That's something that that when we allow contractors to cut our streets, this new technology is something that would be wise for us to require them to utilize.
Well, to that point, the Corps of Engineers done some studies, and they're not definite, but when you take a new road and you start putting utility cuts in that road that allows the entry point for water, because it's saw cut, there's a joint, you can't make it go away, then the more cuts in the road can cause that road's life expectancy to be 50% of what it normally would, you know, just being a smooth paved surface. So allowing that water intrusion via utility cuts makes your road last a, you know, fraction of the time that it's intended to.
See a lot of our streets that have a seam down the middle. Is that because it didn't overlap it? What causes that?
Melvin, over a period of time, that is something, again, that has gotten better with time. I have went all over the country doing seminars on longitudinal joints that the paver makes when they're butting up. They have their one paved lane, they turn around, come back, and what they're trying to do is, if it's if the length of the road works out to where it's still hot when you turn around to come back, and you try to wedge that joint and overlap it to get that density and compaction, because with TDOT has seen the need of this, and so right now, the last 2 or 3 years, I've been graded on my joints as well as my mat, and they'll come and core right in the joint to make sure I got 92% right in that joint. That's how important it is to them, because over 10 years ago, everywhere there was a joint in the roads, eventually there was a crack. And I know what you're talking about, but that has gotten a lot better.
All right, has anybody else got any questions?
Well, guys, I appreciate your time, and thank you,
What
Mayor.
we talked about today is let Toby kind of talk, kind of give you an idea what's ahead, and he's going to give us kind of a proposal of coming up with, to do some things he's talked about. And we'll present it to another meeting. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Look forward to you spending a couple weeks up here demonstrating. All right, of course, tonight we are specifically on the budget, and we felt like this was important to talk about because this is part of the project. Because we was hoping tonight is to actually have a vote on the first reading of the budget. And I know there's some council member that have some different thoughts and have some input on the budget. So I think until we actually get ready to start making amendments to the original, then we may have some discussions, and I'll kind of let Doug bring you up to date on the literature he's laid in front of you and kind of where we are when we came from the last work study.
Okay, I guess the best one is the 2-page on the assumptions that we were using. I passed that out before with the, the different categories of projects 1, 2, and 3. What I did was add an approved column, what I called it approved, or what we agreed upon the other night. This is what's been played into the budget at this point to come to the new numbers that we have. This is, I think, the mayor's recommendations, and then through discussions, we modified certain things. And anyway, this has everything played into it. So when you look at your detail, which is the front page, page 1 of this packet, it's going to come to a basically a break-even budget for 2014. I got $218, but that's basically what everything that we've worked through on these assumptions played into it.
Under number 2, wasn't that health insurance increase 20% before?
Yeah, we talked about that the other night, that we've gotten that information, and we dropped it to 12 when we made the presentation the other night. We're waiting on the finalization of rates. Was hoping we could have them, but they're supposed to. They said it would be right about this time frame. We just haven't got them yet. The initial one they had was like 5-ish, and that was, we were a little scared on that one, so we're not sure where they're going to go. But based on that, we dropped it from the 20 to the 12.
The assumption that has property tax revenues flat for the year, is that taking into account properties coming off tax abatement, industrial?
Yeah, we looked at, and there was only a couple that looked like were actually coming off that were already in when we did the revised numbers this past year. They came in as adjustments. I didn't have any listing of any additional ones. We did get or add in that 50,000 that we talked about for increases that we already have gotten through Sumner County. We haven't gotten anything from Robertson County at this point, but we did get some information through Sumner County as we're going along the process that had some increased assessment values.
What more so what I'm talking about is when it comes off of abatement, it's not 100%. It cycles up 20% every couple of years. I'm assuming that,
right.
I can see that 1 or 2 of these should be hitting a different bracket in this year as composed to last year, and I didn't know if that was figured in there or not.
Well, and
coming
all
up to
those
a 40
are in
instead
Robertson
of a 20.
County is the issue for us, and we were looking at that. Truly, like I said, we played in, the numbers I gave you were the original assessed values, then we had 3 of them that came in with adjustments for personal property. I think they were all on personal property side. And those would have been in the actual revised numbers for 2013. So I used it and rolled it over for 2014. Then I took the additional assessment information I got from Sumner County and came up with that additional 50. So it's flat to 13 that has those played in. Now, if we get an extra 20% on those, then we probably got some more, you know, those adjustments were about $20,000, I think, when they came in, $25,000. So another 20% might be, you know, another $8,000 to $10,000. They weren't major numbers.
So it's not
but
a
they were
huge
some.
number.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else got any questions?
Where's the increase in the trash fee talked about in there?
I
see it there.
The
I see it
third
on
item
solid
down
waste.
is 192. It's pulling it from, you know, you go down to solid waste, you'll see it, and you'll see it there on the general fund because it directly impacts it.
Number 4 on this first sheet.
How much increase in that?
The discussion was $4.
And that, where that figure come, that'll get sanitation paying for itself. Not any, well, I think just, what, $3,000 or $4,000 difference, but that'll get it paying for itself.
So it's going from 16 to 20?
And if that doesn't pass, what will have to be adjusted?
If it doesn't pass, then we'll pull it out. It's gonna, you know, of course, reduce, you know, push the general fund into negative. Then we have to go back to the approved projects and either pull off or provide additional funding somewhere else.
How much additional revenue is that gonna increase?
With the $4 is 192,000.
192,000.
Well, I just feel like we need to give the citizens something. I mean, they're just going up on everything and they're not getting any more. And I think we owe the citizens something for nothing. I mean, after all, they pay taxes and
That's right.
they keep the city going, so I'd say to see that $4 go on them, I tell you.
I think the $4 on the trash is more justifiable than the 7-cent property tax myself.
Well,
Because basically, from what I understood from the discussion we had, the 7-cent property tax is to increase the amount of paving that can get done each year. It's not really for anything that is being forced on us right now, for lack of a better term, like in the past, where, you know, just to keep the doors open, you know, you had to raise property taxes. That's not the case here. With the trash, the reason why it seems a little more justified to me there is just simply, you know, looking at the research I've done since the last time the fees were raised, fuel's gone up 33%. And, you know, the tipping fees have gone up, expenses have gone up. And as the expenses for trash goes up, it sucks up whatever extra taxes we get in from increased property values or new development. It's already gone just to pay for the increase in trash. There's nothing left over for more officers. There's nothing left over for more police cars, different things like that. And ever since we put the fee in place, I really thought the sanitation should pay for itself. Now, having said that, we can start talking about whether we want to, I guess with a lot of the weather is probably what's led to a lot of it. The sanitation's been doing a lot more picking up of brush and different things like that, which has added a lot of expense too.
sanitation has.
Or it
Streets.
comes out of that fund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you know, the $4. I think the way it was, the $4 keeps it to where we can still do everything. We can still pick up junk. We can still do all that stuff. If you wanted to let the junk go, what was it, $250? I think.
Well, 250 was the number I had, which was 120,000, and then we talked about, you know, probably $70,000 would be the junk related, so that's putting you back at that number.
So the junk and the brush comes out of the sanitation?
That's covered in that.
Well, your
With what you pay for sanitation, that means we pick up junk, we pick up brush, we pick up all that.
It's all out of the general fund where it all comes.
I thought we had talked about a fee on picking up that junk,
We did.
and it just went out the door?
Yep, at at the last meeting.
Okay.
What would you propose we do about, where would the cuts need to be made, in your opinion, in order to pave the streets? And you say it's not something that's knocking at the door or that's required, but I disagree totally. I mean, our streets are in terrible condition, and I've yet to see a way to pave them without spending money.
Well, I'm not saying that the streets don't need to be paved, and you won't be able to get them done as quickly. I'm just saying that this tax increase is not being precipitated by something where we can't keep the doors open if we don't do this tax increase, whereas in the past it's kind of the way has come up is, well, we need this tax increase just to keep the doors open.
Right, and I see what you're saying, but I still think that the streets have gotten into a condition now to where they are almost an emergency situation. I mean, our streets are, has been described as driving on gravel roads, and they're not gravel roads; they're actually pavement. So, for them to seem like gravel roads, has put us into a situation where if we don't do it now, if we don't start spending more money to pave, then we're going to have to spend more and more and more, and we're already to the point where we've got money borrowed to pave roads that the loan has outlasted.
No, I agree. Yeah, I don't want to borrow money to pave roads.
I did give you we're starting this database, but each of you should have a packet of all the street names. We were trying to put it together. It ain't all been checked to make sure we've got them all under, because it came up a little bit short in the miles that I had been reported. But to give you an idea, the last page will show you, if you take all the streets at the current rate that we're paying for paving, and then you got a 10, a 12, and a 15-year life, it shows you your annual amount of cost. So that was just information I wanted y'all to have, because we had that debate going the other night on how much truly it is. Of course, that 17 miles difference worries me too, because that adds quite a bit of dollars to it. But at least gives you something to look at.
I got a question. Of course, I wasn't here at the last meeting because I was on vacation. I took a couple of days off. Went on family mountain. So I'd like for somebody to tell me why they just threw out the door the fee for picking up the extra garbage and stuff, and then added the $4 on.
I was in favor of what you're talking about.
Well, I'm in favor of that. I'm not in favor of the $4. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to vote for it. But somebody tell me, I wasn't here, tell me why it was changed.
I think one of it, best I remember, there was a lot of discussion about people's gonna load it on a truck, take it out here and throw it somewhere, and the city's gonna have to wind up picking it up anyway.
I don't believe that for a minute. That's just an excuse for somebody not to pay that fee.
Well, I'm all for the fee myself.
I've had stuff I needed hauled off,
Yeah,
I'm glad to
against
pay it.
You know, I'm pretty adamant against that $4. I'll pay that fee. I'll pay it myself.
Yeah,
I live in the
too.
city. But I'm not gonna pay the $4 I'll pay the $4 if I get outvoted, but I'm gonna vote against it.
What fee are you wanting to pay, Steve?
Nobody even talked about what it was gonna be.
You have the opportunity right now. What fee do you feel like?
I don't know what it should be.
It was
What we're trying to
proposed
do
that
is
it was a
We're
permit.
trying to balance a budget right now. And so if you've got a number that you need to throw out, because obviously if we remove any money at all, revenue, $192,000 right now, then there's $200,000 worth of cuts that needs to be made.
You know, it
We
wouldn't
still
hurt.
haven't paid yet, so if you've got an idea, throw it
I'm
out
just,
there.
I'm just telling you that if I throw out an old refrigerator, I throw an old couch out there that somebody has to pick up that's been rain soaked for 2 or 3 days, I should have to pay for it. Now that refrigerator, somebody's gonna beat you to it and pick it up and sell it for junk. But that old couch, I should have to pay for that, and if the refrigerator stays there, I should have to pay for that too.
I think some of the numbers that got presented to us don't hold me to this, but it appears that if you done the $20 that got thrown around there at one time, you're only looking at $60,000-$70,000 of generated income based on all the pickup numbers that we had. Most of the pickups happen in spring and summer. That's not something you can calculate across the year. We didn't really have any good numbers. After talking back and forth, we just got to the place where we said, is the fee going to work? Will it even generate? I don't know. But I mean, if you have an idea, give us an idea. That's why we made it work study. So if you have one, share something with us. Because right now we're looking at a budget that is made around a $200,000 increase in this place. Without that, you need to cut $200,000. We still haven't even solved the problem of paving. So, heck, I'm looking for solutions. If you got one, I'm all ears.
I don't know what the solution would be, and I don't have a number here tonight, but we're gonna have to do something. I'm not gonna vote for that $4 increase, because we started off with a $14 and then went to a $16. And before that, if you remember, it was nothing. It was part of your taxes you paid.
Do you want it to be nothing?
No, I don't want it to be nothing.
Because
We
if you
already
want it to
got
be
that
nothing,
there.
you can make that happen here tonight. Because we get confused sometimes because the trash pickup is simply in the general fund. Some see it as an easy way just to raise a fee and not call it a tax, but really it's a tax. I don't care how you label it. Now, there may be a couple here who are adamant. I think Tim has expressed it. I don't know if he really feels that he wants it to be an enterprise fund. I've heard that said more than once. I don't know if that's where he's at or not. But if you want to make it an enterprise fund, then it'll have to pay for itself. If not, you're really just calling it a fee or a tax, but it's still coming out of the general fund. We have about 4,000 trash customers, about 5,000 and something property tax owners. So you just need to figure out where you're trying to get the money at.
Well, you're exactly right. You're talking about a 7-cent tax increase, and then you're talking about a $4 increase,
Which is
what
about
would
another
that be if you added it into cents? Another 7, 8, 10 cents?
It's about 7,
And it's-
6.8.
So that's what I'm saying. So if you don't want that, then that's fine. You just need to share what the cuts need to be. If you don't want the officers, you don't want to pay the insurance, we just need to have those solutions. But just to simply say, I'm not for that, why we're meeting here is to find solutions. And I don't like it, but I'm trying to find solutions. And so I'm open to hear whatever ideas we have.
The fee, you say it'll only generate 60 or 70,000 is what kind of we're figuring, but what would it, and see, this is where it gets kind of confusing because it's also going to save us money if we're not picking up. If we're generating a fee for everything that we're picking up, right now we're also generating costs associated with going and picking all of those up.
I agree with you.
So I mean, there's going to be the numbers are going to be totally different for what that's going to cost us to do that and what it's going to generate. Now, I don't know how to figure those up. I mean, I don't.
I think that's one of the things. It's a big question there. We need to know how to put it was hard to put a definite revenue and expense thing to that. That's one of the things that's hard about that item, to try to get a exact cost.
Well, I don't know about you people, but I used to hear more complaints about dogs or neighbors or something. But I hear more complaints now about 20 cars, police cars sitting at the police station. What do we need with so many police officers? Do y'all ever hear that? You don't?
I'm sorry, Melvin, but I don't.
Well, I do.
And I think we need more police officers to kind of help out the situations that we got going on in our city. That's my personal opinion, but they need more men per shift, and I think they can prove that by the call volume per capita that Portland has over any other city in the county. And
Well, I'm just telling you what the public's saying to me.
One thing I've always noticed that, we all run in different circles.
exactly right.
And depending on what circle you're in, I'm just saying, like his circle must be different than mine and yours. And so I think I think you're hearing that, but I think he's hearing something different, and Tim may be hearing something, and I'm hearing something.
I'm just saying what I hear.
Yeah. I was real aggressive about the 7% increase and $4 and, got beat up a little bit, and had a few phone calls. And, I think I'm the council outvote. 'cause I'm counting Steve's vote out, I'm gonna vote for the increase in the trash pickup. I think we know what those monies are gonna be. We know exactly what those monies are gonna be. I think if we take the money that we've been robbing from the general fund and put that money into paving, we're not gonna get where I would like to see us be with a big paving project. But I think we can pave a lot of streets every year if we use the money, what it was designated for. We've stopped using the paying for the street lights, and now we can stop supplementing the trash pickup. So if we do those two things, and we're not gonna get there, but just take that money every year and just couple $100,000 on an annual basis. We know what those monies are. I was the guy that said that people gonna throw things out along the streets because, you know, I can recall when I used to see those things, Ranch Road and all these subdivisions. You know, we can't make people call us to pick those items up. We hope good, bad, and citizens would do that, but we can't require them to do that. We don't know how many people will stop. So those projections, when you start charging, that number, Doug, was because it was free. But when you start charging, those numbers are going to change. So I'm going to support an increase, and not an increase in property tax, but an increase there, so we know what those numbers are. And I think we can accomplish two things with that. So that's where I'm at.
That's where I stand too. I'll support the sanitation increase, but not the property tax. Whether you want to do it with a permit fee or either way, but as long as it pays
I'd
for
rather go
itself.
with a permit fee than I have.
It died. I mean, saw pretty quick the work study that was going to be a dead ducks.
Well, it may be, but it won't be by my vote. It's a dead duck the other way by my vote.
I really thought the last work study, if I was here, and I thought it was kind of decided on $2.
Well, we had talked about at the end, it was the 4 to pay for it. That way you got real close to paying for itself. That way it would become like an enterprise fund, and
We
it would
talked a
fund
long
itself.
time about the 2 or the 250 and not
Right.
picking up junk. And then it got to the point to where, well, if you want junk picked up, and for it to pay for itself, that would be $4.
I'm kind of like Steve on his comment a minute ago. He said that at one time it was nothing for trash pickup. And if you do that math, $4, if it'll generate $192,000, that's going to put it up to a $20 fee, which should generate $960,000. Does make you wonder how we managed to get by for so many years absorbing that money.
Well, think of how much tonnage you had 10 years ago compared to now. How much mileage was covered 10 years ago compared to now. What the tipping fees were
Sure, it
10
didn't
years
go up
ago
$1 million.
compared to now.
But
What fuel was 10 years ago compared to now.
This is real easy. Nobody wanted to pass a property tax increase, so they passed a sanitation fee. They said, we'll do $2, $5, $11, whatever it may be, instead of saying we raised property taxes, because we knew we needed more infrastructure, we needed more needs, and so we called it a fee instead of a tax, because we didn't have the backbone to do what we needed to do.
Right.
The case is that you have more property owners than you have trash pickup people. You could actually lessen the burden by a straight property tax than you could by the sanitation fee altogether, if you was really worried about the burden over the people, because the numbers are there.
It's
So
named
Much of
something
this is
different
going
though.
for infrastructure.
It's named a fee instead of a tax, and people think they got
Well, I
everybody
mean,
fooled.
it's relieved money in the general
I
fund.
don't
that
see
we've
where
been
you
able to
got
do
more
things we
property
wouldn't
owners
been
than you
able
do
to
trash
otherwise.
customers. I don't see how that's possible.
Well, that's the numbers I've been
Oh,
given.
well, I didn't hear what you
That
said.
can't be right. Because you got renters. I
Well,
don't see how you can
well,
have
the
more
penny
property
property
owners
tax
than you
increase
do trash
generate.
customers.
Industries,
They have trash pickup too.
not ours, though.
Not all of them.
Most of them have their own.
On their own.
So for property taxes, you'd be stretching the burden onto industry as
And
well.
then you got lots and things like that, and commercial.
You know, I agree to some degree, but when you look at public safety, you know, you can't increase fines to make that budget balance. When you go to the fire department, there's no revenue there. When you go to the street, there's no revenue there. So the only place that you can identify what it costs and attach it directly, legally attach it to what it costs is the sanitation fees. You know, we get in trouble legally if we start trying to balance budgets in the police department with fines and citations and things. So you know, you can legally identify it and you can legally attach it and say, well, it costs this much, so this fee is paying for that. And it's not coming out of the general fund in the areas that's not revenue, that doesn't generate any revenues. So that's, you know.
So what, 910, what would property taxes have to be raised to cover what's being brought in there?
It's being brought in where?
Right through the sanitation.
You talking about the whole sanitation?
Mhm.
Well, 30,000's a penny, so,
30 cents, roundabout?
would be $1 million.
Yeah, 30 cents.
Would be $1 million. So.
If you want property taxes to pay for trash, it'd take a 30 some odd cents property tax increase.
Well, no, you already got, if you took your fee away completely.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Okay,
about, if you got rid of the fee.
Right, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You know, we're kind of like sitting here balancing this thing, but that money's still coming.
Yeah.
You know, we may be dividing it up, but it's still coming in.
Well, and I agree with you, but what I'm saying is I think at the end of the day, we have to have 4 individuals, 4 votes to do anything. And whether you call it a tax, or you could raise taxes a percentage, or you could come down on the percentage on your trash fee and still get to the same place. But if we can get 4 or 5 or 6, hopefully 7 people to agree on something, you know.
Well, that's what I'm
we're
saying.
gonna
So
get there.
I hope we're not misunderstanding the difference between the two, because we're dealing out of the same pot with the general fund. So I guess based on what I've heard here, that then because we had met and I think we identified the number 1 issue was paving streets. So is that no longer the case?
I don't remember that meeting.
Yeah, we met here on Saturday 2 years ago at the election and said, you know, we had that work study. Everybody identified your top 10 and everybody.
Well, don't say
came back with
everybody, because I
paving.
don't think I was at that meeting.
Everybody at the meeting.
There you
I
go.
think is
Well, I mean, you
probably
know,
what
if you wasn't here, I don't know about that. But
Yeah.
it was a meeting we
Yeah,
had.
that was the item.
Yeah, 'cause Mike, you're right about if you do the math on that, it's kind of funny to see those numbers worked out. If you increase trash pickup fee to $20, that'll be $240 a year.
Right.
That'll cost a person with a trash cart, $240 more a year. I mean, they're paying 16 of it now, but I'm saying it'll cost them a total of $240 a year for the trash pickup. If you had raised taxes to have made the same dollar amount, it would cost them on a $100,000 home $80 a year for that same tax increase.
What would the tax increase do to your businesses, though?
I don't know.
What are you saying would cost you $80 a year?
If you had applied the same, to have come up with the same $960,000, you would have had to have had a 32-cent tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm right on the figures of that, on a $100,000 home, it would be about 80 extra dollars a year.
We always use $100,000 because it's easy to calculate, but I think the average is about 134.
Even 100.
Well, even a $200,000 home would be
Would be
160 versus 240
I'm
with
just
the trash
curious as to
pickup
what the
fee.
number would be.
Yeah.
So 100,000 is what, $2.50 or $25 a year?
100,000.
Every penny generates $2.50.
Okay.
So times a 32-cent increase would have made another $80 a year.
The sanitation's how much a year?
If we
$4.
increase it by what they're proposing, it'll make your sanitation $240 a year.
$240 a year.
So that 7 cents
That's about-
to add the $210,000 to the paving that you're talking about, you'd rather than pay $4 a month for trash than the 7 cents is $15 a year for that 100,000.
Well, let me say this.
$15 a year.
That's
to add
about 3 times,
$210,000
that's about
to our
3
paving
times
budget.
the
We're talking about
increase
doing
that
it
us
that way.
social security people get a year.
What's that now?
About the 3 times as much as us social security people get a year.
$15 is?
240.
What did you say it was?
Gonna be
Again?
$240.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be
A year.
There's one factor that
In addition
that I
to
think
what we got.
that we're leaving out, and the reason I like the $4 is that I don't know of any person that has rental property that's going to increase that rent by $20 to take care of that tax increase. You know, rents have stayed pretty consistent here in Portland through the years, 500, 550, whatever, they go up in increments. The only way for that to balance out is for that property owner to raise his rent $20 or whatever that is. The way it is now, that renter who's generating that trash is paying that $20. And there's a lot of rental property here in Portland that landowner, property owner is not having to deal with in any way. So And I heard, I've heard the argument that, well, that landlord could just, every time you pop a fee on him, he just pops it on the rent.
So in other words, what you're saying is, you think the property owners of Portland should supplement the renters?
No, what I'm saying, I think the
That's
renters.
exactly what you just said.
That's the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying that the renters should pay for picking up their own trash.
Yep, I
Not
agree with that.
not the taxpayer.
But this argument sounds good, but when Alderman Harbin brings up the fact about paying for sewer that runs in his house, in front of his house that he don't have, we say, well, that's part of the process to pay for our sewer facilities.
Because of the requirement to borrow money. I mean, no.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds good on one hand, but then it don't sound right on the other. And I know it's going to be hard to make it all work out. I understand that at the end of the day. But the question is, I'm curious, are y'all wanting I guess somebody's wanting or somebody's not wanting. We need to figure that out and we'll move on. Because we need to figure out, I guess, two things. Is anybody wanting to pave above and beyond state street aid? And so far that seems to fell apart since the last time we met.
That's not the case.
Oh, it's not the case?
No.
What's not the case?
Because when we make sanitation self-surviving, it pays for itself. All the money that was being generated out of the general fund can now go into paving what it should have went all along.
No, this budget right here is made based on that $4 just to cover things like insurance and a couple of extra employees that we needed in the police department, engineer.
How much do we have with the $4? How much we have each year in paving?
None.
Well,
It don't even affect the bottom line.
$4 was eat up in all the other projects that are.
The money, that's it, yeah, the money that's freed up by that $4 is being used for.
The general fund?
Yeah, insurance
Right.
increase.
So with this, we're not
Police
gonna.
officer,
That's what we
police
figured it out at
car.
the last meeting, and it was all back in great detail, that we needed the $4 and the 7
And
cents.
the 7 cents.
Well, the 7 cents is just for the paving.
Right, yeah, if you don't do it, you're not getting a $210,000 for pavement. It's not gonna affect none of these other items.
A 1-for-1.
So it goes back, reason why, because we said that paving was important, and so we was willing to try the sales tax increase max to try to generate roughly $250,000 extra, because we said it was important. We've been saying it's important. Most meetings, we come in and say, this road needs to pay, when we gonna get the money, how we gonna do this? And then, we have an opportunity, so are we going?
What was the budget for paving this year, Doug?
219, I believe, Tim.
And how much?
That's
how
with or
much-
without the 210.
No, we added.
Without the 210.
Yeah.
We added some. There was some money that was found, some extra money that came in
Oh,
by waiving
payment,
it.
you're talking about 2013?
Right, mhm.
Yeah, we took what was left in street aid, plus it was like 235,000, I think, that we had, which basically was these 3 roads.
And where did it come from?
We had it in street aid's fund balance, or restricted already. It was 140-some thousand, and then the additional revenues that just had not have been appropriated out of street aid.
How much is the street aid on an annual basis?
Roughly 300,000 is what you get on street aid.
So we get $300,000 a year.
To use for.
But not all that goes to
Not all
paving.
Not all of it goes to
paving.
street aid, but probably how
I mean,
much
all
of that,
goes to street aid, but not all of it goes to.
probably how much of that would go directly to paving?
Well, on the budget of 300 for this 2014, 219 went to paving.
Okay.
That's the paving that's in the budget for 2014 at this point. The 7 cents then was adding another 210.
Which
Yeah.
would be 4.
If the average is 150,000 as far as property owner, with the paving and the trash increase, you're talking about an increase of $6.19 per month per household. That's for your tax and the trash pickup.
That's for residential.
That's for average property owner owning $150,000. It may not
Well,
even be a real number.
we're not
I'm
even-
just saying if average is $150,000.
We always talk about the $100,000 house, we don't talk about the $10 million factory or, all that other stuff.
Yeah, you got the numbers
You're
there,
right.
but 59.
That's not who called him this weekend, I don't think.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I'm not
you
any
know
less
what sounds
concerned
unfair
about.
about this? The thing about it is you're putting every bit of it on residential. Every cent is coming from residential, if you're talking about that.
If you're talking about what?
Trash.
Your trash.
The trash is, right. For the people that get it picked up.
Well-
But your property tax will be spread over your residential, commercial, and industrial.
Yeah,
Just,
that's true.
let me give you some histories, just so, because y'all were throwing stuff out. In 2003 is when you established sanitation fee of $11. In 2006, it went to 14. 2010, it went to 16 where it currently is. So about every 3 years it was going up. Your breakdown on residential agricultural versus commercial industrial is 59% of your assessed value is from industry and commercial. 41% is from residential and agricultural. And those numbers I think I gave.
That's
Tim.
what I was looking at, yeah, I was gonna
So it
bring
gives you an
up that
idea
point.
of how it impacts your different segments based on that.
And your commercial is assessed at
40%.
40%,
25.
rather than the residential being assessed at 25.
The majority of your revenue comes in from industrial or commercial, as far as property taxes go.
And a lot of that is your personal property side.
And then when you look
Big
at
chunk.
the biggest, when you look at commercial and industrial, they're not very, the uses as far as sanitation is limited.
Very limited.
Because most of the industry has their own dumpsters and.
So even if it was 50-50, whatever is being divided up between whatever the number was used, 5,000 households, that, more than that number is being divided up between how many businesses and industries? A few hundred?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think, yeah. There's a lot of businesses.
Because you got to remember, the impact you have on business has an impact on your residents. You know, they're providing the jobs, they're providing the services.
And this $4 is strictly residential, right?
The trash would be, yes.
And it's also froze on anyone that met the.
Tax relief.
Tax relief,
Tax
yeah.
relief.
It doesn't
They
take
still
them
get the
in.
750.
Theirs stays the same.
Yeah, it's at 750, I believe.
You know, and we look at each year, the employees' health insurance that we participate in increases, gasoline increases, maintenance increases, the new truck that we just purchased. I mean, you know, it just, I understand, and I agree with Melvin, I wish we did not have to do that, but everything each year just increases that, and it's, you know, it's just. it's
You know,
just
it
inevitable.
does on the people that's paying the bills too.
It's just, what
You
is
know, I mean, it hurts, you know. Back when I was working, making good money, I didn't pay much attention to it, but, you know, now that I'm retired and on a fixed income, I have to kind of watch what I'm spending. If I don't have it, I can't spend it. And I can't go nowhere and get it, you know. And there's a lot of people out there in the same shape I'm in, and you will be, if you're lucky enough, one day to be in the same boat. You'll be on a fixed income, and you'll have to deal with it. And we're looking at a water and sewer rate study in the future, right? Near future. Well, there's gonna come an increase in water and sewer. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. So where's it gonna stop?
I don't know, but if I'm reading this right, also, you were concerned about commercial. If you own $10 million worth of property, then it costs you, and your commercial rate, which is 40% assessed, correct?
Right.
Then it costs you $400 per cent increase annually. Well, if you got $10 million worth of property, $400, it's not a huge
Well,
number. It's
yeah,
about
you
like
probably
$2.50
afford
for
it, but I
mine.
ain't got $10 million worth of
Well,
property.
then you ain't gotta worry about it. If you're like me, you're closer to the bottom end of that, of that spectrum.
Yeah, a whole lot
and
closer.
It'll be more like that 6 cents or $6 a month to have trash and roads paved. Oh, I hate it. I'd rather we didn't have to increase it. I wish we could write everybody a check every month. Really, I wish we had something that would do that. But the streets wear out, and the trash has got to be picked up, and they raise prices on us for hauling trash, and for $6 more a month, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that's not glad they don't hit potholes every day, and glad they get to throw stuff away. I'd hate to have to keep it.
So what you saying, you favor the tax increase over the?
Both.
Oh,
I'm
you
in
want
favor of the
both?
7 cents and the $4. As I was the other night, as was the majority in here.
As I was.
Yeah, as was the majority in here the other night. I know we wasn't on camera then, I don't think, but now we are.
Well, and I was, but, you know, when I talk to individuals, you know, I was reminded that we were sent a, you know, we want our streets paved, but we were sent a little message when Mike presented the increase in sales tax. would have solved everything. Well, people spoke on that, So it's not like that we come up here and,
That's a good point. I hadn't considered.
So, for some reason, people, it doesn't seem when you increase sanitation and when you not won't raise my property taxes, whatever you do, don't raise my property taxes. And I agree with you when you crunch the numbers, but the few people that I talk to.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Are you in favor of doing any more paving than what we've been doing? Are you in favor of increasing our paving budget? If you are,
I'm not.
I've heard you say that you have. So if you are, what in this budget are you willing to cut to subsidize to get our paving budget up to add a couple $250,000? What in the budget are you willing to cut so we can add $250,000 this year so that we can start doing some paving?
And understand this.
Well, I can answer that. I'm just real simple.
The roads are wearing out.
It's real simple. I'm not. I've talked to my little circle, and my little circle does not want a 7% property tax increase and a $4 increase on the sanitation. Now, my little circle may not be but 5 people, but that's just what I'm getting from my little circle. So, sometimes I was all hyped about those increases, but when I talk to the people that I've talked to.
That's what I'm saying, but your circle that you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
does not want to pave the roads in Portland.
Well, they told us that when they voted down the sales tax increase.
They said not pave the roads in
Well,
Portland.
that's what we said. That's what we're going to do with the money.
Taxes to do it.
Yeah, we told them we was going to take that money and pave streets.
Well,
and everybody said, that's what we promised. You promised me. You promised me. We promised me. And promised me. And promised me. And they said, no, sir, we don't.
Well, let me ask you this, because I hear this a lot oftentimes that we were sent here to lead. So where does the tipping point for you happen when you say, regardless of what my circle tells me, the roads must be paved? When does that happen? Next year, 5 years? Or does it ever happen, or do we just go back to grading the roads in gravel and calling it a day?
You got to remember, we are suffering from, 3 years where we didn't pave a road?
Right.
It's not like that this is going to be the condition every year here on out if we
Well,
don't get a 7 cent property
we've already
tax
figured out what it's going to
increase.
cost to continue to pave them, and we're not paving that much.
I don't know. We just saw a solution.
I might save
us a bunch of money,
that
too.
thinks these roads are going to pave themselves. But which roads are we going to allow to become gravel, and which ones are we going to pave if we don't generate more money? Bottom line is, we've already decided. All the math has been laid out for us. It's going to require more money to keep the roads paved. Currently, if we continue in the direction we're going right now, they're deteriorating faster than we're replacing.
Because you didn't
I don't
pave
care how
one
you
single
do it.
road for 3 years.
No, that gentleman tonight said the
No.
cost is doubled, and it's not going down. He's made that statement right
Not
there
paving in
tonight.
3 years does not make them continue to deteriorate faster than we're replacing. I don't care what you do.
No, I'm saying
if
the
the hole in the
roads,
bottom of the bucket
I'm
is bigger
saying
than
that the
food going
roads
it,
are
it's
in
gonna be
a more severe case than usual because we fell behind for 3 years. I'm not what I'm saying is, y'all sitting here, if we don't have this 7 cent property tax increase, we're not going to pave a road.
No.
Now, don't insult
No.
the intelligence of everyone in this council and everyone
Nobody
on the other side
said
of that
that.
camera
Nobody
You're
said
the
that.
only one that's saying
by
that, Tim.
painting it in that light.
No.
That's not what it's been
We're
painted.
not going to pave roads.
Possibly
How many
now.
times they ask you that, Lou? We're not going to pave roads? They ask you that how many times?
Well, we're just not gonna pave what we would like to pave.
Exactly.
And it's not like to pay. Wait a minute, that's a
Well,
wrong
what we-
characterization.
what
What
we
we
need
need to pay. There's a difference.
Well, there's a lot of
Word.
things we need to do. Are we going to raise taxes to the point to cover all of that?
That's why you have taxes, is to cover needs.
So
Right now, we're paying taxes
How much
to cover
do you want to
needs.
raise taxes to cover all of our needs? Give me
No,
a
I'm talking about
number.
needs, not wants, Tim.
I said needs. Give me a number. What do you think? What number
What
would
needs
cover
do
all
we
the
not
needs?
need?
You said you
We
wanted.
said 7 cents
You said
right
you
now to
wanted.
cover paving.
You said you
Mayor,
wanted
can
more
we have a
officers.
5-minute break?
That's what's in the
I'm
budget.
just looking for where's kind of like what Melvin was expressing. What's the top limit? Where's it
Well,
going?
you've got a budget right now. If you don't want this,
what's your
then what
number?
do you cut?
I've got a whole list of cuts. I'd
Let's
like to
hear it.
propose.
Well, make some
All right, I tell you what, this,
motions.
We've had a request for a break. When we come back to the break, what we need to do is go ahead and put the ordinance on the floor, vote in a second, as it is, and then we'll just start making amendments, either up or down.
Move to approve to get it on the floor.
Right, so let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and do that. Take a 5-minute break.
Tim, I have a feeling you don't believe these numbers here.
I haven't looked at those